Good Sunday morning. Today is the first Sunday of Advent. Advent's a Latin word meaning coming. Advent's a beautiful opportunity to not only remember his coming as a babe in Bethlehem, but also to come together in Christian fellowship. Fellowship. It's a wonderful word, and it's an experience that is more and more difficult to enjoy during this pandemic. Fellowship is what we were made for. There's no greater joy in life than fellowship. John wants his readers to enjoy the same fellowship he has. In today's passage, he says, we want you to enjoy this too. Your joy will double our joy. Koinonia is the Greek word used for fellowship. It expresses a relationship of great intimacy. It's a rich word that describes life together in which everything is shared. This is the word that John uses of our intimate relationship with God. It also describes our relationship with one another. In today's Old Testament reading about Daniel, a wonderful example of fellowship with God is seen. Daniel chapter 6. It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 satraps to be throughout the whole kingdom, and over them 3 high officials, of whom Daniel was one, to whom these satraps should give account, so that the king might suffer no loss. Then this Daniel became distinguished above all the other high officials and satraps because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom. Then the high officials and the satraps sought to find a ground for complaint against Daniel with regard to the kingdom, but they could find no ground for complaint or any fault, because he was faithful, and no error or fault was found in him. Then these men said, we shall not find any ground for complaint against this Daniel unless we find it in connection with the law of his God. Daniel exemplified godliness and integrity. Verse 3 says he had an excellent spirit. You know how you get that? From fellowship with God. Daniel was a man who had great responsibility. He was very busy, and his job was extremely time-consuming. Yet he managed to find the time to pray 3 times a day. Fellowship with God was the number one priority in Daniel's life. He continued to pray just as he had always done. He refused to compromise. He didn't even try to hide the fact that he was praying. He just kept the windows open, just like he had before, so that everyone could hear. In context, we can ascertain that his prayers were not the self-righteous prayers of the Pharisee in Jesus' parable, but the genuine intercession of someone who believed in God and was loyal to his country. I suspect that the prayers that Daniel prayed were for his neighbors, and they could tell. Since his jealous enemies could find nothing in his life that was subversive, they resorted to using his religion against him. The technical term is persecution, but that's going to have to be the subject of another devotion. Today's devotion is about fellowship. Fellowship with God, fellowship with one another, and even fellowship with angels. In chapter 6, the remorseful king calls to Daniel in the lion's den, O Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God whom you serve continually been able to deliver you from the lions? Then Daniel said to the king, O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lion's mouth, and they've not harmed me, because I was found blameless before him and also before you. Hebrews 13:2 says that we should not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels without even knowing. I don't know if I've ever entertained angels, but in sweet fellowship with God and his people, I know that I have been entertained. Resist the pressure to compromise. Keep fellowshipping with God. Have the courage to party in the lion's den. Our church service starts at 10:30. Church is an essential service. Physical distancing protocols are in place, and I hope to see you on this, the first Sunday of Advent.